Hi. Okay. This little number kind of slipped through the cracks, and I found, well, I forgot about it, and, like, literally completely forgot about it. And then a friend of mine from Clearfield, you know who you are, made me think about it. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I completely forgot this happened. Oh, boy. Okay, here's the deal. I did not get a clearance for a name, but I'll leave it as someone I know. In fact, if this person, I'll say this much, he watches it, and if I were to say his name, it's probably going to backfire, but because he's going to, like, have a problem with it, but I'm telling you the absolute truth of the matter. So here it goes. Back when I was in Giant Eagle, working the overnight by myself, two friends of mine, Michelle and Anea, at the time, well, they were, like, dating, and they called me because Anea worked at this one restaurant. And she says to me, hey, I have a guy that wants to meet you. You two could get along real well. And I'm like, okay. And so, like, I have a phone on me, so I'm working, and I'm again by myself. So I took my break when she was coming out. So she calls me, goes, we're almost there. I'm like, okay. I said, well, what's his name? And she says it. And the name, I won't say, but it might as well have been something along the lines of Percy. Might as well like Percy. I just don't know. That won't work. Well, he informs me, and she puts him on speakerphone so I can hear him in his vehicle driving out to the store at like 1 a.m. that he is like 6'4", he's cute, and just to hear him talk, I was like, this is not going to end well. It's like, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll be civil, I can be good about it, you know, I can meet him and say hi, you know, just be platonic about it. They pull into the parking lot, he gets out of the vehicle that he's driving, my Blazer, gets out, and it was like the second I looked at him, all I could think of was, it was like meeting a defeathered big bird. I was like, oh my god. I was like wanting to go hide behind the video return box or something, like, get it away! But I was good. He came up and be like, hi, how you doing? Blah, and he just starts to have diarrhea of the mouth and constipation of the brain because he had all this to say, but I wasn't, it was a big show, and I'm like, okay. And literally, within 30 seconds of him going, hi, how you doing? I'm like, hello, careful now. And he just starts, I said something about being comfortable with himself. And I'm like, wow, you're really comfortable with who you are. Something along them lines. Literally goes, I'll show you how comfortable I am. Right in front of these two girls that I'm really good friends with. They were dating at the time. Literally tears off his clothes in front of me. I've known him 35 seconds. And he's like, shreds the shirt. It's his work shirt, mind you. His pants basically drop to his ankles. And I'm like, and he tears off his work hat. And he's standing there in all his glory. And trust me, I was not exactly whistling Dixie over it. In fact, Danny Boy didn't even cross my mind. I'm like, oh god, it's like just, and he like just is in just, oh, he was so enthralled by it. I'm like, no. So we had to walk around the building, and I just, ooh. I mean, no, not to be mean, but I was not this. You know, it wasn't happening, and they go to leave. And I find out later on, well, actually, I was nice. I gave him a hug after he put his clothes back on. And I gave him a hug. I said, well, thanks for coming out and meeting. You know, I can be a friend. Sorry. I almost threw up. No, really. Anyway, and they get in his vehicle, and he leaves. And apparently on the whole way back in, he looks at the two girls and says, my grandmother sent me my angel. And I'm like, and I call Michelle, and I leave her voicemail, and I went, oh my god, don't ever bring him back here. I'm like, I cannot believe what I just had to deal with for 30, that weren't my break. I'm like, I could have had a V8. So, he leaves. I think he's gone forever. I was very, very wrong. Next thing I know, I'm working at this restaurant where he works. And working there, I got to nickname him Banana Hands because he'd be like, ding, 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 getting all fingery and stuff, you know, and I'm like, oh, please, seriously, back off. See, I got one eyeball, don't poke it out. Seriously, come on, work with me. Focus. And he just thought I was the bee's knees, and I'm like, no. Well, when you know it, I try to be friends with him. Pay attention to that. That's tried. And, like, we begun work at 3 a.m. And he said, hey, I have a friend I want you to meet. And I'm like, okay. So we drive up to IUP at, like, 3:30 in the morning. The town, for some reason, being a college town, it's, like, abandoned. We go up above the bar called the Boomerang. We go up there, and the hallway, I swear, is this big. We get back there to this bedroom, and this guy named Adrian, I think it's, or Adrian? Aiden? Whatever. Total, just, he was the Sequin Express of IUP, and I'm like, hello, how you doing? How's the kids? I'm like, can we, like, go? Let's leave. Let's get out of here. I don't want to be here. Well, this other guy named Josh is there who seemed normal. And we decided to go downstairs. Apparently across the street to a bench, and we're sitting there trying to have a conversation. Well, apparently when he's nervous, he has a speech impediment. Well, the more nervous he gets, the worse it is. So I was trying to calm him down a little bit, and he seemed like a nice guy. Till I found out he had the most flexible ethics and questionable morals I have ever come across up to that point in my life, okay? That boy, it didn't matter what it was, you could have killed people. And he's like, that's what you want to do? I'm like, really? I'm like, I need to leave. We go upstairs to get a hold of that individual. And he basically, he is trying to get the moves put on this other individual that I'm borderline petrified of because he was freaking me out. And so we had to leave. We get in the car. Now, mind you, when we drove up there, this car was a red, I believe it was an old little Subaru. I think it was a Subaru. Might have been a little Camry. It was old. This thing was like the first one out of Detroit, like off the assembly line, I swear. And the kicker to it, it had these big, this would be a dead giveaway for people that wonder who I'm talking about. It was, I don't know where he got the car. I don't know how this all came about, but the car had 8 or 10 of them. Stickers with mice on them crawling out of holes, and we had them all over the car, and it looked like a big piece of cheese with these mice crawling out. And I called it his mouse car because that's what it looked like to me. So we're coming off of Crescent Mountain. Well, I actually fell asleep. I don't know how I managed to do this around him because I was always a nervous wreck. Yeah, I tried to be friends with him. I felt bad. I'm sorry. But we're coming off Crescent Mountain. I think it was Crescent. I fell asleep somehow. I managed to fall asleep. We're coming off Crescent Mountain. We're coming down, and I hear this. And I look over, and he's like nudging me, going, hey, wake up. I'm like, what? He goes, what is that? And I sit up. I'm like, that sounds like your engine. Because it was coming from the front of the vehicle. It was like a flat tire. Turns out, all his idiot lights, they call them, came on. And he had steering, sort of, and he had, like, no brakes. Then all of a sudden, he had no steering. And all of a sudden, here it turns out, we come the whole way down off the mountain, and we wrap around where 99 connects at, and the car basically stopped. We had to get out, had some yoo-hoo stop, but we had to use his phone to call for a wrecker to have this guy come over on a rollback bed to pick up the car. And it's me, yoo-hoo, and the driver in this cab. Oh, I felt so bad. I did not want the guy to have to deal with you-know-who, so I had to sit between the two of them, because I knew that guy wouldn't like that. So I sit between the two of them. They take us down to Fiore's, right there where the Plank Road and 36 cross that, Fiore Auto Outlet. We had to park it there. And we have to walk back to his house. I go to call a friend of mine to come pick me up. That person, who I can't say the name either, because I can't get a hold of these people, nowadays anyway, and I had to wait until, like, Noon. I'm like, okay. Well, this person that had a broken down car, I had to go into their house. His parents are apparently at work. We go up in the attic where his bedroom was, and I somehow, again, fell asleep. I remember saying, don't touch me, just leave me alone. And he's like, okay. I wake up. I'm like, where did he go? He's like, I don't see him anywhere. I'm like, all right. I'm like a spooked deer, like deer in the headlights. I'm like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I go downstairs. He's walking around in his Fruit of the Looms. Remember, he feathered Big Bird here, people. And he's talking to some guy and just going on like he is Jerry Springer meets Murray Povich. And I'm like, I want to get out of here. It's a nice house, but I want to leave. And long story short, a friend of mine picks me up. I picked up there. It was the car. Here it turns out he forgot to put oil in it, and it leaked oil out, and he never put oil back in. The car basically locked up. So that was that low number. So, but mind you, to walk from Fiore Auto Outlet to his house was probably, I bet you, well, we had to walk past an H&M Park to get clear over. It was a bit of a clip. Now, when he got his other car that his mother gave him, because apparently he couldn't get a hold of a car or something, he inherited an Oldsmobile Cutlass, a newer one. It wasn't a half-bad car, I should say. It ran, at least. It's about the only plus it had versus the other one. It actually was running. So he decides to take me up to Wapsie Outlook. Those of you that know where that is. We were up there. We got off work. He goes, you want to hang out? I'm like, I guess I don't want any more traffic. I said, don't leave the county. I need to stay within the county. We go up there on Wapsie. He climbs on his car hood. And I'm like sitting in the car like, how long are we going to be here? I have things to do. And these people pulled up. Actually, I'm wrong. They were already there. They were there. Oh, that's right. They got out and had cigarettes. And I had the window down. Because it was like the middle of summer. Like, July. These two people were just going back and forth, and it kept getting real heated and elevated. F this, F that, and over a registration. And he's on the hood, laying there, watching the stars, And I'm sitting in the car, like, who are these people? Why are you? And he's like, oh, come out and lay here. They're not 10 feet away. And they're just going back and forth and back. Really, this is the only place you can come to have a conversation regarding a vehicle registration. For real. So, after that, I'm working at this restaurant still, and he brought in this guy. And he's like, oh, you have to meet him, you have to meet him. And I'm like, I don't want to meet anybody of yours, I'm sorry. Every time he's off work that night, and I was working that night, he'd come in with like 8 gay guys, and the Pride Parade would walk in. And it's like, really? Okay, whatever you want to do. And I just, of course, he'd point me out, and I'm like, how you doing? And yeah, I would get stared at. I would get the looks. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't a server, because they would have probably given me all kinds of tips. That wouldn't have been such a bad thing, but I've worked there enough. I knew how this gamut works. Well, wouldn't you know it, we were working one night. It was a Friday night. And he goes, oh, I brought him down. I'm like, okay. And he's like, you have to meet him. I'm like, I don't want to meet anybody. And he goes, he's outside, not outside, but around the bend. Go right there, look around. So I go there, and there's this guy. I'm like, okay, he seems pretty normal. Why is he with you? I go back, and I went, okay, what about it? And he goes, well, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, okay. I pity the poor soul who is, but okay. So, later on, he introduces me. And long story short, that morning, this person says to me, hey, would you want to go out for breakfast with me? And turns out the guy that was sitting out there waiting all night for him was Randy. And he goes, hey, Randy and I are going out for breakfast. You want to go for breakfast with us? I'm like, you two are kind of dating. Why do you want me involved? Well, next thing I know, we go out to Roaring Spring, to the Spring House on a Saturday morning with the Mug Club. We sat there while all these old-timers take their mugs off the wall and have their cup of coffee or whatever. And Randy and I struck up a conversation. And next thing, I didn't even try it. Next thing I know, this person gets pushed out of the conversation. I wasn't even trying. It just happened that way. And we drove around Henrietta and the area for like probably 2.5 hours. And finally, I decided, you can take me home now. You need to drop me off. And we get home. Well, I do anyway. Drop me off. And I say, hey, I didn't mean to talk your ear off. He goes, oh, don't worry about that. Blah, blah, blah. I love talking to you. And they go to leave. Here, not 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from someone saying, I need you to pack your clothes and come to the hotel room. Randy doesn't like me. He wants to spend the weekend with you. And he is like, his Southern Belle was just screaming. I don't know Randy yet. And I didn't want to get involved because I know this individual's track record and it sucks. So I wasn't going there. Well, guess what? Long story short, Randy and I ended up dating. And this certain person, who this story is all but about, had such a breakdown at work over it. He was threatening to spit in my food. He was, like, threatening to do all this stuff to me. He was, like, he would, like, deliberately try to burn my meals when I would get food at work. He would, he just had all kinds of problems over it. Well, years pass, and I come to find out that he's still alive. And he apparently has had cancer like 5 or 6 times. That goes into remission when he wants it to. So needless to say, that's that story. And I'm sorry that it took so long. It's like, we're at 16 minutes here. I'm going to probably edit this down a bit, but it was ridiculous. And every time I talk to this person, it's always the drama. I mean, the drama. It's the point where I don't want to talk to him anymore. That sounds mean, and I shouldn't feel that way. But he just, every time I talk to him, there is such... It's one of the worst written plays you'll ever read. You just keep... It's literally, I would love to know where it came off the tracks at. Apparently the day that they brought him out to the store, and I was there, and ever since then, and I literally just put some distance because I have my own problems. He is just the derailment. It's a train wreck. It really is. So, to the friend in Clearfield, that's what this brought on. All this stuff. I had notes written down just to remember everything so I don't screw anything up. So, but anyway, that's what happened. And I'm sure if this person watches this, they're not going to be pleased with me, but nothing's made up. It is, in fact, I probably forgot something. I probably forgot a situation at work that involved this person. In fact, I think one of the things I'm remembering is, oh my goodness, there's the stuff that went on. Like, I'd be back in, I was a busboy at this place, and he would come back with his dishes out of the kitchen to be washed, and I would be back there by myself. And it was like Predator and Prey. I'm just minding my own business. I'm washing dishes. I'm doing what I was hired to do. And he'd come back here and getting all banana hands. I'm like, get off. I would literally be pushing. I would literally start kicking him. I'm like, get away from me, please. Get up. And he's like, I made you some sirloin dips. Here you go. And he'd just get all. And when I mentioned about being Big Bird, I'm serious. He is built like Big Bird. I don't know what happened. The DNA just got totally messed. I don't want to go there. He was so desperate for a boyfriend. So desperate, and I would tell him that you would screw a mannequin with a defibrillator because at that point it was like pulse optional with him. He'd screw a corpse. He would. He was so desperate and so hard up, and just the stuff that he would do on a regular basis, and it was very difficult to be friends with him. Very difficult. So messed up situation. But that's one of those stories. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Toodles. Keep rocking. Later.